7 years ago, life seemed almost scripted, predictable in its comfort. I thought I was content, living in a routine that felt safe, even if it lacked excitement. At the center of it all was my wife, Sarah. I believed she was my partner, my confidant, someone who shared my hopes and ambitions. That illusion shattered one night, permanently. I can still picture it vividly. The kitchen was dimly lit, the summer air heavy and sticky. The soft clink of a spoon against her cup echoed faintly as she stirred her tea, barely acknowledging my presence. Her expression was distant, cold. Then, unexpectedly, she spoke words that cut through me like a blade. "I wish you'd just disappear." There was no anger, no confrontation, just an icy, flat declaration. For a moment, I thought I might have misheard, but the emptiness in her eyes confirmed the truth. My first instinct was to argue, to plead, to salvage the life we had painstakingly built. Yet her silence was deafening, more powerful than any protest I could offer. The woman I thought I knew had already checked out. The warmth, the intimacy, the feeling of being chosen, they had vanished. So I began to withdraw. Not immediately in the physical sense. I still went to work, returned home, and slept in the same house, but internally, I started to retreat. I stopped exhausting myself over her moods, her barbed comments, the tiny battles that had drained me for years. Instead, I turned my attention inward, toward myself. I left the house before she awoke, returned long after she fell asleep. In those stolen hours, I began reconstructing who I was. At first, it was mere survival. Then it became transformation. I sought challenges that had once daunted me, invested time in learning, in travel, in conversations with people who expanded my perspective. Cities I had only seen on maps became tangible. Strangers became friends, mentors, and allies. I developed skills, accumulated wealth, and built a life far broader than anything Sarah had envisioned. Meanwhile, she seemed convinced she had broken me. She flaunted her freedom, laughed louder, strutted with an air of triumph, confident that my silence equaled defeat. But for me, the quiet was deliberate. It was the calm of a man sharpening himself for a greater destiny. 7 years passed. 7 years of rebuilding. 7 years of becoming someone she could never have imagined. Then fate reunited us in our hometown. I was there for business, nothing personal, no intention of seeking her out. Outside a cafe, flipping through documents, I sensed her gaze. I looked up. Across the street, she froze mid-step. Her face was unguarded, shock painting every line. The man she had wished away was still here, transformed into someone unrecognizable, stronger, untouchable. She didn't move at first, rooted as though the ground had shifted beneath her. Every excuse she had used to discard me crumbled in an instant. Slowly, almost involuntarily, she stepped closer, drawn as if by gravity. "Daniel," she whispered, my name catching in her throat. I met her gaze, calm and composed. She searched for traces of the man she had left behind, but he was gone, replaced by someone forged in absence and perseverance. At her side stood another man, her new partner, I assumed. He stiffened, sensing tension, but I ignored him completely. Compared to the storm between Sarah and me, he was irrelevant background noise. You've changed," she murmured. "You look successful." A faint smile curved my lips. "There's a lot you never knew," I said softly. Her eyes flickered with a mix of awe and regret. She tried to steady herself, but the tremor in her hand betrayed her. Glancing briefly at her companion, she returned her focus to me, suddenly aware of how insignificant he seemed. What have you been doing all this time?" Her voice quivered. I leaned casually against a lamp-post, offering nothing but silence. And in that quiet, she understood everything. The years hadn't destroyed me, they had forged me. Her companion shifted uneasily, sensing his irrelevance. Sarah's composure cracked. I didn't realize what I lost," she admitted, her voice soft, uncertain. I met her eyes steadily. "I survived without you," I said. She flinched, struck by the unvarnished truth. Not afraid of me, but of the life she had forfeited and the realization she could never reclaim it. "You've done all this without me?" she whispered. I nodded. "Without your doubts, your judgment, your betrayal. And I'm stronger because of it." For a brief moment, I almost glimpsed the Sarah I had loved, the woman who had laughed freely, who had promised forever. But that person was gone. Before me now stood only a shadow, regretful, desperate, broken. She lowered her gaze, voice barely audible. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," I replied evenly. "This isn't about words. It's about truth. While you chased illusions, I built a life. I became stronger, happier, unstoppable. And you learned too late what you let go." Her silence was the final verdict. The control she once held over me had vanished, not through confrontation, but through the life I had chosen to build without her. As she walked away, head bowed, I felt no bitterness, no triumph, only peace. 7 years of absence had crystallized into this single moment. Sometimes, the ultimate revenge isn't retaliation. It's thriving beyond the reach of those who tried to diminish you. The man she once wished to erase was gone. In his place stood someone far greater.